I started in the middle of your sentence.
That's
That is
fucking
funny
funny
as
as shit, actually.
That's yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. I don't follow it at all. I guess I guess I thought, even though I shouldn't have done that because Netflix are normally bad with them. Because One Piece was good, I just kind of was like, oh yeah, they turned the corner. Avatar will be good, and they'll all be good because One Piece was
The
good.
thing with the
The problem,
Avatar one is like it was worked on before, like at least talks of it was before the One Piece one.
yeah, but weren't like the people who like made Avatar supposed to be working with? Because
But
Netflix
they
was like putting
left.
a
They left like a while ago and said
oh, that's
like they
true.
had creative differences.
You're right. Dang, that's I
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the thing with the Avatar one that sucks a little bit is like from the trailer, at least visually, there were parts of it that I honestly thought looked better than the One Piece one. In terms of like the set location. Like the actual backgrounds I felt like really did actually match Avatar and like not that the One Piece ones were bad, but like I feel like they actually did even better on that.
well, I feel like One Piece visually doesn't match. Like the One Piece show didn't match like the vibe I expect from One Piece, which is fine because I think it fit the show. It felt way more like a almost like a
More
Jerry
piratey,
Bruckheimer, like
right?
Pirates of the Caribbean kind of
Yeah.
yeah, like movie, where it's been more trying to be like this like blockbuster movie and give like a pirate vibe as opposed to being like silly
Hmm.
campy stuff. But maybe Avatar can't get away with that because it's too close aesthetically to the actual series. So any like changes, people notice more, I guess.
Yeah, like I do feel like the only issue that some people could take with like the set location is like since it's real life, it's obviously not going to be as like bright. But I don't know. I think they kind of did a good job of from what I've seen of that stuff. It just feels like it's more of like a writing and possibly casting thing. That's the issue.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, Mathwas is here. So
Hello. I
yeah.
am here.
Yeah.
I've said
So
this before in like somewhere, but like anytime I'm in a conversation that has like three or more people, I feel like I tend to disappear, so I will do my best.
mhm. um yep, all good, all good. So I was gonna, I guess, did you actually have anything to say about the Naruto live action or the thought of it, or no? Because it came up
Uh,
before stream, but
I don't. I'm just not.
okay.
I've yeah, like I've seen bits and pieces of certain live action adaptations, but I feel like on principle, I'm just like I don't know the mentality behind it of like oh like it's not um what's the word I'm looking for?
It's
That
not
like oh
animation. Oh,
by like
go ahead.
making it live action now it's like more um meaningful or something or like it's I can't think of the word I'm looking for.
I think I get where you get what, or understand where you're getting at, where it's just like, live action is treated more seriously. So, in having a adaptation, it finally validates the existence of the original in a sense. Like, oh, it's good now. It matters now because it has a live
Yeah.
action, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Which is, I think that's fair. That like to have that concern because it's definitely not. Uh, yeah, it's definitely unfair to animation, and is just another example of the way animation just gets treated like shit and always has, honestly. Um, and especially when like yeah, the end, like the fact that the Avatar one came out and is apparently is just like not as well written and more condescending. Like how the because so one of my friends said he feels like we're in a golden age of television because we're just getting so many good and interesting live action shows, but also here's a live action adaptation, another one that is just like relatively like condescending and in some ways like steps back from fucking 20-year-old shows. Like what? Like like I remember seeing that in some of the discourse about how it's like, oh, they're changing Sokka's arc with sexism and whatever. Like how the fuck is this children's show just more forward thinking and well written and just deliver, like it's just Avatar is just how the fuck did this perfect storm happen, like because I mean really, I guess it really was a perfect storm because we have not gotten a show like Avatar on from Western animations. So yeah, I don't know.
I will say, I guess, on the point of Naruto live action, really quickly, I don't think Naruto live action can have the benefit that One Piece live action does for, I guess, the series where, like it was on television, but I think One Piece didn't like One Piece benefited a lot, in the West, I think, from, like One Piece live action helping like spread One Piece to a bunch of people who didn't experience it
Mhm.
before, right? Like One Piece was like an anime thing that you kind of had to know about anime to get into, versus like I think Naruto being on Cartoon Network means that a lot of people who would be at the age to turn on a live action Naruto adaptation or go see it in like a movie theater or whatever, like would have seen it on Cartoon Network and already have that exposure to Naruto. So I don't think it will do the same thing for One Piece, where I do think like live action One Piece at least got a bunch of people interested in it, and then they went and watched it or read it. Versus Naruto, it's like I think anyone who kind of is interested already had that exposure as a kid, and
Mhm.
either got into it or didn't.
Yeah, that's fair. Because it does kind of go back to what Nun said. That is just about like how One Piece in a way was kind of protected by the 4Kids dub because it meant the fans kind of went to the manga and were able to enjoy that. Where with Naruto and Bleach, it's like what are the most popular? Well, like the parts, the arcs that were the most popular during the peak of its popularity in the West, right? So, um, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious like where they want to end for this movie. Like I'm assuming they if they try to go past Land of Waves, that'd be really weird. But like I could kind of see them trying to do that since like tuning exams is just so popular, and then also like it's hard to imagine like obviously we all really like Land of Waves, but like it's hard to imagine the ending of Land of Waves serving as like the best conclusion to a movie, uh, that feels like it could like stand on its own even if there's no more movies after that. Because
Mhm.
it really feels like it's just starting, especially with like Naruto just getting like his motivation and like and even though he overcomes Haku kind of, it still doesn't feel like he really like accomplished something to like really cement him in like a singular movie, I guess. Like, I don't know. It feels kind of weird.
Yeah, that makes sense. Excuse me.
They should just do the tuning exams because that's the part everybody likes.
I mean, I definitely think that's what you do. Like, you either start it and you do like an early Land of Waves, like you quick do Land of Waves, I feel like, and then you just get to the tuning exam, since that's what you know. Like, unironically, I think most people would want to see, or at least it's the more popular thing to adapt. Like if you're adapting it from just like a normal like, you're trying to make money. I think that's what makes the most sense to adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Beth was. Did you have anything specific you felt like talking about, or just vibes?
Um, yeah, I don't know if I'm really coming in. I guess you mentioned, or I mentioned to you earlier that like I was thinking about maybe one of my next videos being like revisiting the topic of like bad shonen discourse and just in a more like updated context, I guess.
Okay.
Because I feel like I've been going through like my old videos on stream on the channel recently, and like while I feel like a lot of my points in the old ones still hold up, there's also like a few points that I feel like I could that I didn't really talk about or think of at the time that I could like expand on. Like I think the big thing for me why I feel like it might be worth revisiting uh like I can just discuss what I've observed as like the general mentality of like how people get into these um battle shonen, and then how there's very often like a sentiment by the end that oh it fell off or it wasn't as good as when I got into it
Right.
and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like what's interesting about making that video now is like, obviously when you made that, you know, the big three was already over, obviously, but now like when you're making this right now, like stuff like MHA is like about to end, Promise Neverland has ended, Demon Slayer has ended. Like there's a whole like extra set of series that have ended, so you can like evaluate those like in terms of whatever point you're gonna try to make, which I think is like definitely interesting to see if like there is a change in reaction or there's like what stayed the same.
Huh? No,
Yeah, I
that's
think it could also be interesting to like revisit the big three in a, like how I feel like general discourse around maybe less One Piece because it's still ongoing, but like with like Bleach or Naruto, I feel like now that they've been over for a few years, the discourse is less from like a updating it weekly and
Mm-hmm.
more people are going back and looking at it as like a whole work.
Yeah, Bleach is interesting, especially because like Thousand Year Blood War is a thing, and that wasn't a thing when you made that.
Mhm.
Which has obviously thrown a wrench in how people like view Bleach. Um, I feel like even with One Piece, like even though you said you don't really think that much has changed, I do think like with Wano, like I feel like there's like a little bit of a possible thing. Like obviously it's not that's like necessary to mention, but
Yeah, I guess as far as like anime adaptations go, like it is notable how the style shift for the Wano adaptation and beyond.
mm-hmm.
and yeah. Until Nunn brought up, I was kind of thinking of it on it, but I hadn't really thought about how like yeah, while you made that video, like all these you had all these newer series, and now a lot of them are like over or ending, right? Especially like just looking at Jump with how the fact that like what are the oldest series in the magazine? It's like One Piece, MHA, Jujutsu Kaisen, Mission Yozakura Family, like everything's gone out of the magazine. That was in the magazine 5 years ago, pretty much, except for like a couple things. And but yeah, I don't know fully how the discourse has shifted, but I know people aren't into MHA's current arc, even though I literally have been on record about not giving too much of a shit about MHA. I'm pretty sure, like reading it, I'm like, yeah, I think if I reread it and actually like vibe with it, like this is probably like some of the strongest stuff in the series. Promised Neverland, I liked from the beginning and I liked to the end, even though the common consensus is that it goes to shit. Kimetsu no Yaiba, I have no idea what the comic. I feel like it's a lot of it shifted to negative, but I don't know how much of that is like because of the anime or is how much of that is the manga.
I
I know
disagree
there's some fucking.
slightly.
I mean, there's a fucking million view video of someone just shitting on it for like an hour.
Oh,
So,
I did see that one. Never mind. I forgot about that. I've gotten recommended that.
and on Twitter I see people clowning on the anime a bit. So I don't know what's going on there because again I haven't watched the anime, so I don't know. Like, is there a down tilt in quality? Because I have also seen people shitting on MHA's anime for a while now. So but I can only speak on the manga. But I generally speaking with these, I think they're all pretty consistent in quality. Like with Promised Neverland, I do kind of get it because it shifts gears. Because it starts out with the first arc has a very different vibe than some of the later stuff. So I understand people missing that, but I still think it's good throughout the whole thing. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I even remember like back when we were covering Wano on the Nenshow, or was it Wano or the Boruto discussion that we got a comment or like a few of them that were just like, "Oh, this is the most like positive discussion I've heard on this material."
That was
Like,
Boruto, yeah. That where I think Boruto Part Two, where we were like, yeah, this is good, and you still coming from a place of not even watching the anime, but like, except for the original movie, and it was, yeah, I think it was Luna. I want to say it was Luna who said that, like Lunixer, who said that, like, yeah, he's just never heard a discussion on Boruto that was that positive, which was sad because we were just like, yeah, this is pretty good. Like we weren't like it wasn't like Wano where I'm just like losing my shit for 13 hours and you are also having a like you're also really into Wano too, but it's like
We're there, you know.
yeah, no, you of course you had a good time with Wano, but like like obviously like a lot of people are super positive about One Piece, right? But
yeah, I mean,
but
like
even
that's kind of the interesting thing about our One Piece discussions in particular, because it's like you're like the ultimate One Piece fan, and then I'm just like, I'll catch up to it weekly eventually, but still haven't yet.
Now
What?
is a phenomenal time or a terrible time, depending on how you like to read weekly. But it is a time for One Piece right now.
Mathis has multiple people in her ear saying, "Please read it." So,
Yeah,
and yeah,
I read this week's chapter earlier today. So
I
I'm,
bet you fucking did, and I bet you're fucking thinking about it because
it's
like,
something.
Yeah, I was
yeah,
starting to chip away at it a bit ago, but I've only gone up through 1075 right now.
gotcha.
So I think I'm still like 30 or more behind.
Yeah, I think right, exactly 30 or no, maybe no 33. So you still got that's like fucking 34 volumes behind, but you'll get there. You'll catch up, and if you don't, like that's the thing is I'm gonna reread it anyway when it finishes, which could be sooner than I thought. It could be later. I don't know. I'm afraid anything could just like the whole game could just change in just one chapter. That's where I'm at with it now. But I won't spoil. Um, Also, Ombre, I haven't seen that meme, so I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe Mathwis has, but I'd be surprised.
No, I don't know what that is.
And especially if it's a spoiler for Egghead, she's not that far. So, anyway,
I know I appreciate that you're not spoiling me because I feel like maybe even one of the things I might talk about in the video, but I feel like I'd have to catch up to really speak on Jujutsu Kaisen, but like so many spoilers untagged that it's just been unavoidable.
Oh, even with the just like I'll scroll like I'm actually pretty lucky. Twitter does Twitter. The first thing Twitter will show me when a new One Piece chapter is translated is the scan group saying that it's translated and them warning like, hey, watch out for spoilers because there's people who wait for the official scans. But with Jujutsu Kaisen, I'll just see I'll fucking see leaks, and it's like I don't why Twitter. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, it's leaks in
Like, it's
particular that I feel like I don't know if it's just people reading the chapter early or some people like even reading the just what synopsis or whatever comes out.
Yeah, because that's the first
And
thing. Here's the process. I'm pretty sure, like, someone reads the magazine and they just describe it, the important events and what happens online, and that gets translated first, or it comes out in English because people, you can just, yeah. Then there's usually like low quality pictures, and then the actual chapter is scanned and translated on usually like Thursday, ish, sometimes Wednesday, sometimes Friday, and then obviously officially it comes out on Sunday. Um,
Wasn't there the fucking like I'm pretty sure you were there when Luna said this, but like the Duolingo account tweeted a JJK spoiler.
I'd mention that because it's fucking it's fun. It sucks, but it's also pretty funny. Like
that one in particular, I feel like was a cultural phenomenon that was just unavoidable.
no, that was definitely like the Ace Dies shit in One Piece, where I was surprised when I had a friend who was watching through One Piece and he hadn't been spoiled because to me, like being in anime and manga spaces, it felt like you couldn't avoid finding that out when it happened, because it's like. Yeah, it was a major character death in One Piece. It was, huge for Luffy's character. It was alongside Whitebeard's death, and One Piece has been memed about for years about like no one dies in One Piece. So you hear that you have this like major thing in the biggest arc thus far, right? So it's just like my favorite anecdote from that is when you go to the One Piece Wikia, and at the top it's like in memory of Ace and Whitebeard, and then right under that it's like this Wikia contains spoilers for One Piece, and it's like. Brother, you can't do that. Um, but yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen's interesting because I feel like it's at peak popularity right now, so it doesn't have a down tilt in opinion, I guess, that I've seen with some other series. But yeah, I mean it's obviously very controversial, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not very
Yeah.
controversial. But yeah.
Yeah, I think shonen discourse specifically is interesting because so much of it is like based in specifically like how shonen manga is like distributed to people and how people consume it, you know? And so much of discourse is based in not only like, does the discourse change as, you know, like, I guess new people get filtered in and out of like anime communities, but then, you know, just like, that happens and it changes how people read series when they catch up to them, what they read of certain series and how, you know, so like when they catch up to a series and then start going weekly versus when they read it all, what everyone thinks of it, you know, what their childhood with the series is. So like now a lot of people probably talk about Naruto grew up with it versus, you know, there's people who or like grew up with it and then rediscovered it later because they watched it when they were like way younger, as opposed to people who, you know, were watching it like when it was first coming out in when they were older, like, you know, your age, Crafts, old fucking men. And now like if it's people younger than like Nun and I talking about it, it's just a completely different like experience with a lot of these situations. It completely changes how the discourse and what the issues are. And it's interesting how much of that is tied to one part I think it's just how long most shonen manga is, right? Like there's like unique kinds of discourse that come in with like really long series, right? And the problem is there's not that many other things you can look at that are really good examples that are easy to like use like a basis, right? Like I think the best one would be like a sitcom maybe, right? Or like maybe a long running book series, just because like it's so many and it's such a consistent release schedule that it becomes such a large part of someone's life for so long, or it's such a large part of someone's life for a short period of time in like really because I feel like that's the two ways people consume like a long series, like a Naruto or a One Piece, right? It's either you do a little bit at a time for a really long period of time, or you do an unholy amount in a really short period of time. And I think either way grows like really, really strong emotional attachment and really strong feelings for that thing. And it just causes people to get really discourse brained. And it's super interesting how, especially One Piece is when I feel like One Piece arcs almost get like, they almost have like a similar thing to like Zelda games in the Zelda fandom, you know, where there's always a new one that everyone hates and a new one that like they shift, you know. It's like Dressrosa was bad and now Dressrosa's good and Wano's bad, and then later Wano will be good and Egghead will be bad, when, you know what I mean.
I feel like the Sonic cycle is like the epitome of that. I feel, or the one that I feel like I've seen the most, or maybe back in the day, where just like, you know, people.
No, that's definitely still true.
Yeah, that when you were bringing up just like this, because yeah, people just like there's recency bias and nostalgia, like or some mixture of nostalgia and then like yeah, even just being caught up, right? Like I think you know, people say the war is great, but Fishman Island's bad because they caught up in the war and then they were reading Fishman Island Weekly, right? So and then like Wano, I think gets that too, because like it's baffling to me that people say it's not good when it's so good, right? Or it just takes people have that just seem like, you know, have you been reading One Piece that long? Like if you didn't see Gear 5 or you know that coming in any capacity, like where were you when the manga started? Like what were you thinking? I don't know, it's just baffling to me. But
I imagine that's where like the anime adaptations can kind of play into this cycle as well, because someone sees a new anime and they're like, oh, this is cool, and then, you know, maybe the anime gets them to, you know, catch up to the manga and they're, you know, really into it, and then like following it weekly, maybe some of that initial hype kind of dies off, and that maybe just equates to like, oh, the series fell off.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I feel like Dragon Ball Super kind of has that to some extent, but it's kind of worse in the sense of people really, really view that manga as like supplemental to the anime. So it's like while the anime is like not around and they only have the manga, people like are very like critical of like if the manga's not like constantly moving and it like is just even a little bit slow, like they're really upset because they just like can't watch the anime and they have to like read the manga. Like I know it's different because it's like it was just adapting that movie for a while, but I feel like even before people were upset that it was like just adapting a movie that people already watched, it kind of had that like edge to it where it's just kind of like it has different expectations because I guess the types of people Dragon Ball fans are, they really value the anime.
Yeah, I mean, especially considering that it was big as an anime here in English, right? So it makes sense that like reading the manga is like a concession to someone who would primarily like if they didn't have to read the manga, they wouldn't, right? Is kind of the vibe I get from some maybe the type of person you're describing, just because it's like, that's just how they see it. Especially Dragon Ball Super is such a weird case because like compared to Boruto, it's like, from what I've read of the manga, it's like you can just read Boruto and get the story, even if I still think the anime is better. But obviously with Dragon Ball Super, you have manga exclusive material, and then it's like Broly's literally in the manga right now, but they didn't adapt his movie to manga.
Yeah.
So they just they show and then this thing happened. Anyway, moving on. Like they just show Broly for one panel, and then now he's part of the story. So they really just like, you watched this movie, right? Right?
Yeah, I was surprised when we were like talking about like when we would do the next arc in Dragon Ball Super, and you mentioned superhero getting adapted, because it's like, why did they do that one but not Broly?
Well, yeah, and I remember when we watched Superheroes, I was like, that orange guy's from Broly, right? And you're like, yeah, and I'm like, okay, because he showed up before the Chilai and I think that's her name, and Broly actually showed up. So I because I just remember I didn't recognize his character because I hadn't seen Broly at the time, and now I have, but it was just like it was weird. So like I had a moment that a manga reader would have had reading the manga and seeing that guy and being like, who are you?
I actually do know why they adapted superhero and not Broly now. Like, I actually found this out like very recently. Like, Toyotaro was interested in telling a story about Goten and Trunks, and he originally like proposed it as a spin-off, but Toriyama just said like, you could just put this in the main manga, and that like is essentially what led to them like attaching that to superhero and just kind of adapting superhero with like that spin-off high school stuff in it. Because he just specifically wanted to do stuff with Goten and Trunks. Whereas, like, I mean, they didn't specifically talk about Broly after that, but I'm assuming, like, there just wasn't, like, the same kind of interest in doing, like, original Broly stuff added to that movie.
Yeah, okay. Well, because, they are now following the movie. Like, there's stuff in the manga that takes place, like, right after the movie that built off of it. But I'll talk about it more on the Nenshow, obviously, but and I don't know where it's going because it's still happening. Yeah, it's an interesting situation.
Cool. I don't know.
I feel like I was gonna say something about Boruto, but I feel like I don't know. I just really want to get back to the anime, because like I feel like as far as like anime and manga go for that, like it really does. Like the Boruto manga really does feel like just the skeleton of a story, kind of, and like there's still like really interesting stuff going on there, but in terms of like the side characters and stuff, it's mostly like the anime that really fleshes them out.
I feel like the anime really does like contain what makes it the next generation's aspect in a lot of ways, because it's like, even though you still have like Boruto, Sarada kind of, and Mitsuki kind of, I feel like really like showing the cast's like next generations and like how they're gonna like carry on from everyone before is really like earned by how the anime does it. Not that the manga didn't earn it. I like the manga, but like I feel like that like appeal of the whole cast's like kids is not really there.
No, yeah, they're super minor in the manga. It just doesn't work for me. But
Like, I feel like even Mitsuki in the manga is just kind of there.
Yeah, I
he
mean, I
gets
was stretching it there.
One chapter that's like, here's his deal.
You could be like, you could throw in Scarlet Spring and pretend that's part of like Boruto, even though it's called Naruto Scarlet Spring.
I mean, Mitsuki doesn't do anything there.
Oh, what was the one that Mitsuki
was
did stuff
Sarada.
in? No, I do know that's the
oh,
Sarada one now, but like there was a different one that's like Mitsuki's,
Like a one-shot sort of
I feel
thing.
like it was.
No, that was what I was referring to. The one chapter that was like his backstory with the older Mitsuki and Orochimaru. And
Oh, yeah,
that whole
that's what I was
situation.
thinking of.
Yeah,
Okay.
I already because the most he does in the anime is literally like there's a fucking Mitsuki retrieval arc, and I thought it was really good. I mean, it took a while for me to like really click with it, but once it got into it, I was like,
That's where I stopped
okay,
watching.
this is. I know everyone hates it except for me.
Well, I
it's
didn't
specifically
dislike
made
it.
for
It was
me.
just I happened to stop there.
That was also where I kind of fell off.
Oh my!
I'm hated. I wasn't. I wasn't like. I knew both of you put it down exactly there, like at around the same spot. Which sucks for me because it's like, oh yeah, I around episode 80, it clicked for me, and I was like really into this arc, and it's now my like second favorite in the entire anime. And then both of you are like, yeah, it's not that good though, because I stopped, and it's like, oh okay.
I think it's kind of like interesting on like a structural level, kind of, because like prior to that arc, I feel like there aren't a lot of like long arcs in the Boruto anime aside from like the tuning exams, which they expand on what the film and even the manga do, and it's really interesting.
I feel like even with
yeah,
the tuning exams, it's like snappier, like it moves along more.
Yeah, I feel like the Mitsuki arc might be something that I can appreciate more, like when I do finish it and try to like look back on it. But
I will say, like the most interesting stuff for me was definitely like in the second half of the arc, like because the first half had like the stuff with the snakes that I was not as into. In comparison, for sure, but yeah, I can't. The more I hype it up, the more disappointing it's going to be. So,
I was curious. Like, I mean, I know this is kind of going back to your idea to follow up on the shonen discourse video. What are aside from JJK, what are like the specific series examples you kind of have in mind to use?
Well, I just thought of this idea today.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't gotten that far. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm not like current on a lot of the manga that would probably be relevant, so I think it might just
yeah, I would like
if I can like think of anything in particular I remember hearing, or like, because I remember in the first video I mentioned like I think I mentioned no, I don't think I actually mentioned the Super Eye Patch Wolf video by like name and just kind of implied it. But I did mention like the Gigak video at the time where he talked about like, oh, My Hero Academia is different because it's about the characters, and it's like that's just what every battle shonen does.
yeah.
Okay, I was just like slightly curious, and I forgot to ask that earlier.
Oh, yeah, I was
yeah.
gonna,
Right now it's kind of more of just the concept of like kind of what I was talking about earlier about sort of the life cycle of a battle shonen fan with getting into the anime and then catching up with the manga and stuff, and just like reading it weekly as opposed to having the whole picture in mind or even rereading it. But I don't really have many specific examples.
What I was gonna ask is because I have not seen your Bleach and Shonen Discourse video since it came out. So can you do me a favor? Can you like remind me of what that video, like what were some of your points in that video?
Yeah. Actually, I'll just pull up the script so I can just look at the words. Yeah, the only reason I was thinking about it is because I rewatched it recently and was like, oh, that aged better than I would have liked.
I know I saw your tweet, and I've been thinking I did think about just going to watch that section of the stream. I just have not both thought about it and went to go do it. So because yeah, seeing your old thoughts and then your response would also be good. But
Yeah, one of the things I like, what I kind of opened with was how a lot of people like shonen battle stories can be sort of entry level for people. Like, oh, I got an anime through Naruto or MHA or Jujutsu Kaisen or something, but then like people might move on and then like look down on it like, oh, it's entry level. It's like there's nothing deeper here. It's just, fights and nothing more. And it's like, well, the fights serve a purpose and stuff. The specific examples I mentioned were like, Bleach going downhill after Soul Society, and I think it was the point in the Super Eye Patch Wolf video that was like, Hueco Mundo is bad because it's too much like Soul Society, but then Fullbring is bad because it's not like Soul Society.
What do you want? What do you even want? Yeah, that's funny.
What were the other? I don't know. It was kind of just like watching that video gave me the idea of like, I'm trying to just like, I want to revisit it again and like properly like take notes from it. Cause like basically where I got this idea from is just like watching that video, listening to what I'm saying, and then like, oh, I didn't say this, or, oh, I can think of like more context on this point that I said that still holds up. Like, I feel like if I caught up on My Hero Academia or something, like, I feel like the, popular opinion on My Hero Academia is not as high as it used to be, and I feel like that might be another example of like, oh, it went downhill, but it's like, did it really?
Yeah. No, because it's just so I don't think I've actually run into something that I can honestly say it's like, because usually if anything I think the best arc is the last arc is the best one because it like rounds everything up, it delivers on what the series has been doing since the beginning. Like it's so weird to think that like it's normal for things to end badly because I just have never felt that way. So yeah.
I
I think I also talked a little bit in it about like how people criticize the shonen tropes when it's like that kind of misses the point.
Well, I mean, I even just saw a tweet like as far as like the idea of like digging on shonen stuff for being entry level. I saw a tweet that was like someone mocking the idea of like, oh, people say this action show is the best shit ever, and then they post an action scene or something like that, and it's like, yeah, or it's like it's peak fiction, and they post an action scene. It's like, I mean, yeah, well, what would you expect, like if you were talking about a comedy scene, wouldn't you talk about the comedy? Like, I don't know, it's just such a weird, like, yeah, it's an action, therefore, and it's has mass appeal and it's popular, therefore it's not good, I guess. Like, it's just, yeah, no, for sure. Bad mindset. Um, yeah.
Sick.
I feel like what's interesting with MHA as well, at least in this like final stretch of the story, it almost feels like it's doing certain things that people kind of wanted before, but even though it's kind of there now, it's not really being received super positively. Because like, not that MHA didn't like utilize its like side cast before, like obviously it did, but I feel like in the war, at least from what I've read and what like I've been spoiled on a little bit, it seems like it's like pretty much kind of doing like a really good job of like having like batches of characters handling a villain and making them all like contribute to taking down the villain. Like it's really like emphasizing Class A as a unit, especially with something that I remember. Like the last thing I read was some stuff that like Jiro was doing. That was really cool, and like it's really like going out of its way to like have certain people show up, and like just like the students working together with some of the teachers and like the pro heroes and stuff. It's like it's really cool. Like it actually feels a lot like what it was kind of doing before, but then like more so. Like I'm super interested in like giving it another try, because I was like partially in the camp of not liking it as much, but I have seen like some cool stuff coming out of it, and I'm super curious like where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
Sounds like the good aspects of your typical like end of series war arc.
Yeah.
It would definitely be par for the course to MHA, for MHA to continue doing the battle shonen well. Like, who would be surprised,
Yeah, I mean, that was also something I talked about in the old video that I might not touch on as much. But just how, and maybe like part of it is like if newer anime fans are, because like Battle Shonen can be entry level, like if newer or younger fans are like maybe calling it revolutionary because it's just something they haven't seen before. Thanks, Brain. I forget where I was going with that.
Well, sorry, I just thought of like, oh, people like, oh, I haven't seen this before, and then they're going through the same life cycle of a Naruto fan, but because they haven't seen Naruto yet, so they're like, or they never lived through like going through a series as it went, and so like just because as someone who did go through that, and now it's like, no, that's dumb. Now I'm like, even if I'm not enjoying reading MHA or JJK chapter to chapter, it's like, well, I know that my actual read through is going to be when I go through it all at once. Right. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
just thinking.
Look, I am not going to be surprised in 5 to 10 years when we get when like everyone hates the MHA war arc, and then there start being a bunch of YouTube videos that are like, why MHA's war arc was secretly genius. There's nothing.
No. Oh God, why are you right? I hate it.
Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. It was just that like that kind of attitude that some anime fans have, where it's like a good battle shonen is one that is subversive and doesn't do things in the typical way, rather than just like being a good shonen.
Mm-hmm. Or yeah, no, the idea that like the core shonen is bad, therefore it's only good if it doesn't do that, when the truth is that the core shonen is good actually. Power of friendship is good, actually. Stop saying it like it's bad.
Yeah, you want to be more like Kinnikuman, not less like Kinnikuman.
Oh no.
It's funny because like not even as a meme, I have had the video idea to like talk about Kinnikuman as a way to like be like the power of friendship is awesome actually. But I never went back to reread it, so I haven't done that video.
I talked about Kinnikuman in the movie video, so that's I've done my Kinnikuman video. I'm out.
Nice. You're free.
Contributed to the shonen gods by respecting Kinnikuman.
Oh yeah, and I guess another thing I don't know if you guys feel like talking about it, but I was just I brought it up with Vindy already, but like, because Vindy, you just finished Persona 3 Reload, right?
I did finish Persona 3 Reload,
and I know Matthews has been playing Fest for a minute or two.
I realistically, it's probably. I think I started it like last summer, maybe, and it's just been very like there was a period where I played like a good 60 hours of it in a short span, and then just the rest has been very
you've gotten
slow.
most of the way through though, because the game's not that like I was slow. Like my playtime in games is either really fast if it's like it's just me playing it, or it's like an RPG where the game doesn't really punish me for leaving the game up. And
Oh,
I'll just like idle it. You know, I leave the game up when I go to the bathroom. I'll get up, go like make food and leave the game up. So there's, you know, it took me like 90 hours to beat it, but I'd say it's probably like a 70-hour game. Like maybe a little bit more for FES. I don't know how much content it adds. But you've got it, like,
Yeah, I know FES is kind of broken up into like what's the first one called? It's like the something and the answer, and I think the second one is
maybe the question. I don't know, something like that. Yeah,
my first thought would be question, but I feel like if it's that
I think
obvious,
it's
that
the
can't be
journey.
correct.
It might be the
No.
journey.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I'm in like November. I don't think I'm in the last like month of the like story on the calendar, but I'm like, a lot of the big twists have started happening, and like, you know, the I'm like, how much can I talk about the game?
I don't
Like-
mind spoilers, so I mean,
I finished the game, so I obviously don't care about spoilers.
Well, like I've gotten past the not surprising surprise twist that like, oh, the headmaster guy was
Okay, yeah.
evil.
Yeah,
And,
wow, what a surprise.
One thing I love about FES in particular is just the like animated cutscenes. They have a very like early digital animation, very like abstract kind of feel to them. And like playing it on a PS2, I think it also sort of has like a nostalgic charm of not being like the highest quality. And it's just like it's vibes.
I could totally see that. I do think that like the vibes, even in Reload, some of the just like the early 2000s vibes with the soundtrack, especially in that game, still just go so crazy. I couldn't do. I tried to play FES a couple years ago, and I just couldn't do the no party control. Like it was one too many times.
it's rough.
tried to charm someone that had an ice weakness, and I closed the game. It was it for me.
Masaru, get it together! Fuck!
Playing
Yeah, I've been
Reload-
like trying to do my best to use the tactics and stuff, but it's still like I would rather just control everybody.
Yeah, I know it's moddable, but it's like I wasn't gonna play portable because for me, such a big part of Persona is the running around in the physical place, right, and feeling like you exist in that world.
Yeah.
And I feel like that totally gets lost, like the hanging out in a Persona world. Like I try not to fast travel when I play Persona, honestly, even though like I know I should be. I just like I feel like there's something to just like walking places, unless I guess I fast travel through like getting like a text, but
Yeah,
this game is so cool, and I love 3. That game is it's interesting because just
No, you're good.
I think that game is so it's interesting compared to 4 and 5 because like I haven't played 1 and 2, but when like you get to the modern Persona games, like 4 and 5 are so like they're just like very like episode of the week like arc based, where it's like one month it's this arc and the next month it's this arc, and then that story finishes and you move on to the next one. And in 5 it's like really bad about it, where a story finishes and then that party member just kind of gets added to the cast and they don't really matter because now we're on to the next arc where a new party member gets added and new stuff is happening.
Yeah, that's kind of a really interesting contrast going from I haven't played so much of 4 yet, but going from like 5 to 3 where like Persona 5 really front loads a lot of the characterization, and I feel like Persona 3 it's a lot more in the back end where there's kind of like a mystery to it. And like the characters don't really click together initially.
Yeah, and I loved it because 3 also has like Tartarus as like the backdrop for dungeon crawling. The narrative is able to follow like a much more like normal structure, where there's not like constant ups and downs. It just does take you a couple months to ramp up, which like, you know, is slow for the first 15-20 hours, and it's a little weird that you're doing bosses but everything's still slow. But then I think the payoff gets way higher once the story really picks up, because I think that the story in that game is so much like I don't know, it feels so much more pervasive over like all the aspects towards the end, and especially leading up to the end. I think that final boss is crazy compared to just like I think what the amount of buildup that goes into the final boss in Persona 3 compared to what you get in 4 and 5, I think is insane. And it feels so much more like just earned as a showdown there versus like 5, where it's especially like, you know, you do like the first person that's like, this is the last one we're doing. And then you do the next one that's like, this is the real last one for real, guys. And then it's like, oh no, now we have to fight the first god. And it's like, oh no, God 2.0. And then you do that. And then Royal's like, oh yeah, here's the extra third semester with another final boss. It's like, brother, how many times is this game ending? Versus, you know, 3 like builds up to one battle that happens and it's done. And there's like a fake out ending, but when you look at it all, it's very clear like it's going towards its one thing. And I think that it does make like especially that final boss of that game just hit so much harder than I think this specifically like the final bosses of 4 and 5 did.
Your point on like the fake out endings, or not fake I don't know, maybe that is the word, for like Persona 5 just made me think of like Monogatari, how there's like Hitagi end and Owari Monogatari, and then Zoku Owari, which is another ending, and then it goes on beyond that.
Well, and to be fair, it is a thing, and like every modern Persona has at least one fake out ending where they tell you like, hey, you know, this is going to be the last battle, and then you do it, and then there's another battle after. But 5 is like especially egregious about it. Like they get away with that trick 4 times.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember all the twists, because I know it's like you go down into Mementos, and that's one. There's like the fake god.
Well, so to go back, even if you technically don't want to count it, going into the casino, so what is there, Sai's Palace? Like Akechi has essentially the upper hand on the party and is like, hey, y'all have to disband after this one, so this is going to be y'all's last palace. And the entire palace, everyone's like, oh, this is the last one, this is the last one. You know, you send the calling card and they're like, this is the last calling card. And then you do Shido's palace, and that's like narratively the conclusion of what all the palaces and the stories of the people leading up to it have been about. So that does feel like it has some narrative weight as a conclusion. You know, it's where like Akechi's story ends and Joker's story of the thing that happens at the very start of the game comes to a head. Mm-hmm. And like even all the individual palace stories, not all of them, I guess, but a lot of them tie into it, so it makes sense. And then there's the fake out boss at the end, and then the final boss at the top of the thing afterwards. And it's just like there's 4 things that are there. And how do I feel about the final boss in Persona 4? I think that it's kind of lame that it just shows up out of nowhere, but Myriad Truths is like the coolest thing in the series. So like, what can you do?
Oh, yeah. Also, Luna asked, "What are the Mathwiz game plans for the future?"
Well, I know I still want to stream Persona 4. I've tried that twice now and didn't get very far either attempt. It's just like anytime I would start it, some big life event would happen, and then it just wouldn't happen. Outside of that, I'm not sure. I think Bree has talked about like wanting to get me into like Fire Emblem or like Final Fantasy. But no like plans.
Can I give you some advice for Final Fantasy as someone who played like I think 6 of those games, maybe 7 of them last year, and had played a bunch of them beforehand? Don't play them in order. Because I love seeing a progression of a series in order, and I think that like I thought it would be cool to do that with Final Fantasy. It turns into such a slog with those first like 5-6 games because they're so like there are big differences in them, but they're all still just NES and SNES like JRPGs, and there's like no difference. But I think if you were really making like a real attempt to get into Final Fantasy and you did like, you know, you started with 1 and then you jumped to like one that was a little bit farther and you did like 1 and 2 and then you did like Tactics, and then 3, and then like one of the PS1 games, or like a more modern one that's action based, just to like keep variety up. Because I think if you try to do them all in order, like the games do change a lot, and especially the modern FFs, every single one is different. Even like 7 remake and 16 were games that were kind of coming out simultaneoly and play completely differently.
I feel
as
like
action
since
games.
10, even it's been
Yeah.
like I can't speak for 7 through 9 because I feel like from my outside perspective, 1 through 6 are very similar to each other. Even if there's gradual or like different, there's absolutely different. Even from 1 to 2, there's some major differences gameplay wise. But like like you're saying, just like one after the other, they're maybe a bit too similar. Then like 7 through 9 is like that's the PlayStation ones. So those I seem pretty similar,
Well,
their own
here's
thing.
something to think about. So people like to make the distinction 1 through 6 and 7 through 9, and I even did that myself.
Okay, gotcha.
But 6 through 9 use the same battle system for the most part.
Gotcha. Okay.
So like 6 through 9 has probably the least changes. Like there are a lot of changes in terms of progression and like small mechanics of the battle system. Like 7 uses materia, and 8 uses the junction system, and 9
Right.
is all tied to your gear. And in 6 it's tied to like fairies you put on, but it's still active time battle. You wait for the bar to charge, that's your turn. The enemy has a bar that in some games 4 through 9 is active time battle. I don't know why I thought active time battle started with 6. ATB starts at 4, and so it's 5 of the games in a row are the same battle system, and then the first 3 are NES RPGs. And even like the Pixar remasters feel like NES RPGs. Like you could tell that shit's a game from the 80s. It plays like it.
Well, I was about to ask because 10 gameplay, because I mentioned 10, but I said, but I feel like 12 is the first one that really like has a notable departure from the earlier ones. Maybe you could argue with the sense that its gambit system is pretty unique. It sounds like. Right now, I've played 12, so I just don't remember enough to compare it to like
the closest I could give to 12 would be like, and it's not the exact same, but the closest I could think of is like actually something like Xenoblade, where it is trying to do like almost a single player RPG version of like real time MMO combat. And there are things about playing those two games that do feel very similar, where it's a lot of like you get into a battle and you're just standing there and you watch your character auto attack and auto attack and auto attack, and it's like maybe I'll press something eventually when I need to do a skill, but it's not right now. But yeah, so I would just recommend really switching them up, because I think if you try to play them all straight, the potential burnout is not worth the, I think, gains of seeing the progression of the series.
Yeah, with Persona, I was initially trying to like work my way backwards almost, because like 5 was the most easily accessible at the time, and didn't quite work out. But I don't think I have the dedication to go through specifically a game series in order, because I'm just very sporadic when it comes to playing games in general.
Yeah, I think it depends on the game series for sure, because I think that's definitely fair for stuff like FF, but and then there's stuff like Yakuza, not to like I guess speak for you, but just those are games that I'm planning to play soon, and I couldn't imagine trying to like. I know people start with 7, but that seems so crazy to me.
Well, I mean, I feel like with Yakuza, or wait, do you mean you meant Yakuza 7, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why. Because because I know they made 0 as a way to get people into the franchise, right? So it's like,
and I think that's one that's like you can start with it or you can save it. I know some people talk about saving it, but I also refuse to believe people who say it's the best one, because I've played like 3 games in the series now. There's no shot 0's the best one, just because like it's missing a major narrative thing that Yakuza has that like is so good and great for Yakuza that like I'm sorry brothers, 0 can't be the best Yakuza series without it.
Unfortunate. I guess one thing more related to Persona is that I am glad that Vindy you are not only playing Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, but you're also planning on playing Personas 1 and 2, which means that I'm finally get to know a human being who's played the same, eventually, almost soon this year, will have played some of the same Shin Megami Tensei games that I have.
That is really silly that you went so far back. I mean, I don't think I could ever play Megami Tensei. I just don't think that dog is in me.
None played like 10 minutes of it, maybe, or at least
No,
5.
it was less than
Oh,
probably
God.
less than
I think
5.
it's the exact same reason. I think it's a mechanic that's in Final Fantasy 11. It's the exact same reason I will never play Final Fantasy 11. I just, brother, on principle, I'm not playing JRPGs I can lose a level in. I'm sorry, I don't have that dog in me.
Yeah.
If you're
level
taking
drain
away
is-
my level,
yeah.
I'm taking away my money from you. Like, that's not, we're not doing that game, you know? That's not fucking allowed. So anytime I hear an RPG has that shit, that just, like, that sounds like such a blue ball. I don't think I could handle it. Like, just, because that's what, like, what RPGs are, you know? And I feel like that's, like, that's more frustrating. That has a higher chance of making me get off an RPG for the night, I feel like. Like, if I die in a battle, but I just restart right at the battle, that's fine. I can run the battle again. But if I die at a battle and I lose, like, 20 minutes of, like, character prep, that's the way more important part. So losing, like, the progression and, like, my character getting stronger, that's the shit that matters way more. Losing that is so frustrating. I could not imagine.
So yeah, I guess my thoughts on that is, one, I'm pretty sure level drain is only in Megami Tensei. I'm pretty sure I'll double check it if you ever seriously think about playing it. But the first Shin Megami Tensei, I'm pretty sure didn't have level drain enemies. And two, I mean, like, yeah, if you just can't do dungeon crawling, but all things considered, Shin Megami Tensei is pretty exploitable with some of its mechanics. But also, it's just like it does so many interesting. It does a few like really interesting things. Like probably the most notable is like halfway through the game, the post-apocalypse happens, and your character gets time jumped forward, and it's just like. One of the first things that happens is when you go out and a dude asks you for money, and he's like, "What the fuck is this shit? Yen? No, we use manga now," and you literally just watch all your money drain away because it all becomes worthless. And it's it's I don't know. The first Shin Megami Tensei is cool, but also it's like I can't blame anyone for going out of their way or not going out of their way to do it, especially when it's like Atlas is not making these games accessible either. So, right, like So yeah, and it sound from the sound like that's the thing is so like right now I'm playing Last Bible 3 and having a good time, and after it there's like one more game, and then like pretty much every game on my list after that is like interesting, I would say, because it's like Persona 2, Mach and X, Shin Megami Tensei 3, the Devil Survivor games, Digital Devil Saga, Persona, like the rest of the Persona games. Like it's basically everything sounds interesting.
Do you not have the SMT Pokemon spin-offs on your list?
So they're on my
Devil
list, but
Children?
well, I'm skipping them until Red and Black are properly translated, or one of them is, because Black has a translation, but it's trash apparently. So it's like I'm considering it untranslated until it isn't, and then so yeah, those are I'm interested in those less because I expect them to be good, and more because I talked about this video idea on stream. But I might have talked about it here too, but I just had the idea of just doing a very, like, I guess, research video where I go, after playing Pokemon, I would go into a bunch of, like, other monster taming games. And,
They announced a port of Monster Hunter Stories 1, brother, so just for you.
I have a hack 3DS, but yeah, no, I thought about it. No, I have a big list of, like, because there's Robopon, there's, obviously, yeah, Devil Children and Dragon Quest Monsters. There's like the Digimon. It would probably be alongside a big go through of Digimon. Palworld is honestly the one that made me think about doing it in the first place because, well, especially the part that baffled me about Palworld discourse is because like obviously the art theft or plagiarism and potential use of AI is not a good look. But like I think for me the part that really just like made me quite like scratch my head was like people saying like, oh, Nintendo's afraid of Palworld because it's legitimate competition. And that just like made me think of like, do you know why Pokemon appeals to people? Like, because from what I like part of I think
it's not even just that; it's even knowing why Palworld is appealing to people. Like, they're not even competition because Palworld, its appeal is that like I think it's almost like it's doing stuff that Pokemon would never do, right? Like Pokemon would never let you catch a Piplup and be like, hey, you are now a slave in a sweatshop, and I'm working you to the bone
Exactly.
until
Yeah.
you are insane, and then I'm letting you go rest in a hot spring until you're better, and then you're like back in the sweatshop, right? I think that's like where Power World's joke is. Yeah, there's no world that they're like competition. That's like crazy.
Exactly. That's why I thought the people making that claim was baffling. But like stepping back, I just had the idea of like, because I have a big list of like, so yeah, Devil Children, Dragon Quest Monsters, Digimon, Yokai Watch, Robopon, Monster Rancher, Jade Cocoon, Robo Trek, Monster Crown, Koromon, Temtem, Cassette Beast, Monster Sanctuary, Nexomon Extinction, and then yeah, Ark Survival Evolved and Power World of just like, hypothetically playing through all of these and just like, talking about Pokemon derivatives as a thing, because obviously that's the thing. Some of these games, even like obviously like Pokemon did not by any means invent monster taming, and I don't know. So it's just I don't even know what I would have to say about it. It would just be like a kind of like play all these things and then talk about them generally or go franchise by franchise or something. Because like yeah, I like to think that they're all distinct and have their own things going for them, right? And I guess like another part of it is I do legitimately want Pokemon to have competition, um, because like I do think it's kind of sad that Game Freak can on a really shitty time crunch and not the best hardware make put Scarlet and Violet out and have it like yeah, even if it's like a very bad performance and lots of bugs and crap, stuff that you really don't want in any game on release, but like I had a great time with it and it sold well, so it's like Nintendo is de-incentivized too because it's Pokemon and nothing else is Pokemon. And so I don't know. Yeah, just so I'm interested in the Devil Children games, if for no other reason, to actually see how like they work in regards to like being from an established franchise that has been doing its own thing very distinct from Pokemon, but then now like it's on a handheld and the monsters are cuter and it's like like it's pretty transparent what it's trying to do, but doesn't have to be a detriment in any way. So yeah, I don't know, just very just I'm interested in Devil Children, but I don't know when I'll get around to it because that is a lot of games that I'm talking about there, and it's basically because with Digimon I would not only play like hold on 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 like 12 games, but I would also like have to watch the whole show because I haven't seen Digimon in years, so.
I feel like what's interesting about like the Power World could be Pokemon competition is like even though Power World has sold more than like the other monster taming like games in the same genre, at least within this stretch of time, I would still say like Yokai Watch by far was the closest Pokemon ever had to that kind of competition because it was way closer in terms of ballooning into like a multimedia thing that could compete in the same way and like in a more similar market of like people, like not only the audience is like the same age range, but then also like having the more marketable designs and then like catching on in Japan in terms of being part of like their pop culture, and then obviously it did have its like anime series and like it would have been more of a merchandise thing alongside the game in the same way Pokemon's like the main income isn't really the game, it's just like all the stuff that comes with it, and yes. Yokai Watch would have been able to do that and kind of did do that for like a little while, whereas like Power World is not going to do that. Like I don't think the designs from that game are like gonna catch on with people in the same way. Like I think it can have multiple successful games, like I do think it could definitely be a long running game series. It's just like if it doesn't significantly evolve past how it designs the PALs right now, it wouldn't be anything more. And even then, even if it did, I can't really imagine like a slavery creatures anime thing being very popular. I mean, like maybe it could be successful, not like popular at like multiple seasons and not necessarily in the same way.
Well, even just with the idea of like how the monsters are treated, like with Yokai Watch and Pokemon, they're very much like companions, right? And they're cute and appealing, and they're your friends. With like Power World, literally, how the fuck is it going to make its thing, its monsters appealing when like the game wants you to dehumanize them and treat them
Yeah.
like trash, right? Like,
There's just not
oh
that
man,
same level of
I got a
attachment.
penguin toy. You know, like I just to throw out the wall, I guess, because that's what I do it in the game. Like it's not the same, right? Like it just. You know, so yeah, it's like Vindy was saying, where it's like it fundamentally doesn't have the same appeal as Pokemon. So therefore it can't do what Pokemon does as a franchise at all. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and then like I've been looking into like copyright and like plagiarism and stuff just to like get a better understanding. And like yeah, like I just definitely think there's just in no world where it infringes on Pokemon, and then also they are just like so markedly different um that it, you know, it really isn't like as big of a deal as it initially seemed. And I was like on the initial train of like this seems like plagiarism, but like now I'm just like no, it's just not. Like the only issue would come if they were like actually revealed to have used AI to like take Pokemon designs and then whatchamacallit, get art for the pals, and then from those they like modeled them. Like I would think that's an issue and that could be a legal thing, but like other than that, which there's no like proof of yet, then it's like fine.
And I will say, because there was an issue with like some models like matching up perfectly, but I've seen takes from that on both sides by people claiming to be experts. So I you know, I just remember seeing that. But
Yeah, I saw that too. I would have to I would
yeah,
have
I
to
don't know
see
enough
more
about it
about
for
that.
sure. Yeah. Trying to think what else we could talk about.
Mathers, are you following WWE currently? Like, do you watch?
I don't watch the weekly shows, but I've been like following along with
Okay.
the like the big events.
Can I
Like
can
I
I ask
watched the
your
Royal
take on
Rumble.
this current uh stuff going on with the because I haven't watched in a couple of years. So I feel like I'm behind, but I like keep up with it. Like I try to just follow like relatively what's going on. Um, just your take, I guess, on the Cody Rhodes stuff with uh him winning the Rumble and then the shit show that's gone down since, I guess.
Yeah, I personally I wish he had just won the belt at Mania last year, but I guess they're trying to build it to a big like, oh, it's the 40th anniversary, so it has to happen there. Maybe. I don't even know if he'll win it there. I feel like you can't do the rematch and have him lose again.
Yeah, because then at that point, it's like, who genuinely in the company could you have do it? You know, you would have to bring someone else back, or yeah, there's just no one it could be. I feel like.
Yeah, last year I feel like that whole like bloodline storyline was in a really good spot where like you had the stuff with Sammy kind of getting a payoff. Uh, you know, Cody had his story. And even like leading up to SummerSlam last year with like Jey Uso could have been also like a good time to end it, but I don't know. At this point, I'm kind of just tired of it. Um, what they're doing with The Rock, I guess, is interesting, but it does kind of feel a little like overbooked. Like it kind of reminds me of like a decade ago when there was the whole thing with Daniel Bryan where they weren't initially pushing him. They didn't want him in that spot, but then like the fans kind of made it happen. But it kind of feels like they're almost like manufacturing that by having The Rock show up.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like it was all like a work from the beginning to have The Rock show up and make people think he was gonna take it and get people riled up to get Cody. I see. Okay.
I just feel like even there was like that one time where like Cody said that he wasn't going to challenge at WrestleMania, and there were just like a lot of the like camera work. They'd like cut to Cody for a bit and like hold on it. So it kind of, I don't know, it just felt to me like, you know, it feels like a work to me.
Yeah, it definitely felt like it was too quick. Like from my, you know, I guess I feel like in the past WWE have been way too like stubborn to make changes for me to feel like they would have within a week gone back on if it really was supposed to be The Rock. The whole like, you know, the plan was actually to have The Rock do it, to then by the next Friday have changed their mind. I feel like normally they're way more stubborn than that. So
it's interesting in a way. But at this point, I'm definitely just like, I want give Roman some time. I mean, Roman always like the thing with this title reign is that he's like always taking time off, but like get the belt off and move on.
Well, it's funny because that's how it is now. But I was watching at the start of the title reign. I think I watched the first like year of it, and then he was, you know, every week, twice a week. So it's just funny how it feels like as it's gone on, he's now showing up less and less, and it's just when you're
like he even had
some 4 years
defenses on like episodes of SmackDown and stuff.
Yeah, especially during like the end of like the Thunderdome, and then getting back into like live shows. He was there every show they needed him. But yeah, I mean, I imagine you just can't. Like, it's just almost impossible to actually be champion for 4 years and be at every show like that. Like, that's just not realistic.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why no one else had really come even remotely close to what he's doing now, because it's like, I guess you have, like, Gunther has had a really long, like, title reign, and he's been, like, the workhorse where he's on the shows and defending it regularly.
He has a current long one like on like the main shows.
Yeah, he's the Intercontinental Champion right now.
Okay, because he had a crazy long NXT UK title reign. As Walter, he was like for years. That one, so that's crazy that he's just that guy.
But yeah, it's like. Yeah, I feel like, doing it the way they have been with Roman is kind of the only way you really can get a reign this long in, like, the modern era of wrestling with, like, weekly shows, and I feel like people are, you know, the wrestling is much more, like, athletic than it used to be. It's not as, like... Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like WWE is at least in a more interesting place now than it was like prior, like 2 years ago or so, like before Triple H took over.
Yeah, that makes sense. None. What is? Oh, well, actually, no. You go.
Oh, I never got to ask this in any of the streams. I'm only remembering now, even though it kind of doesn't make sense to ask while Mathwis is the guest, but it is what it is. How's your Animal Crossing been going?
Yeah, I'm playing Wild World. Thank you for remembering, because I always forget to bring it up. It's better than I was expecting it to be, because my fear was that it was just like Animal Crossing, but with less content. So far, the only area that I'm pretty sure it actually has less content in is the holidays, which is definitely really sad, but I'm pretty sure it has more furniture. It has some quality of life changes that are nice. You know, the town isn't, zone based, so it's a little easier to get around. So yeah, I'm still playing it every day that I can. Pretty much. I don't think I've missed it. I think I maybe missed one day just because I was like, fuck, I forgot to play. But I do have a slightly modded version, rather, where there's a hack basically, because normally Tom Nook's store can only be fully upgraded if you have someone from another town buy or sell something there. So in the GameCube version, I was able to do that because it was like fucking July, and I'm like, why the fuck hasn't Nook's store upgraded all the way? And I looked it up, and I just, got another save and, used Dolphin and just took care of it because I literally just had another character come in and buy something or whatever. With Wild World, I had a hacked version that takes out that requirement, so it just does it after the money is spent, or you spend enough of the money at Nook's store. So that's done. And other than that, yeah, like I like the changes they had. There's a fucking I didn't know. See, because I only ever played the original. I played a little Wild World, but not very much, and I never touched any of the ones that came after Wild World. So I didn't know that like Crazy Red has a fucking insurance fraud guy friend who like will scam you out of money. I'm like, I don't know. This is what the fuck is this? In a good way, because it's like not what like they're just pieces of shit. One of the ones that I remember when I looked them up because I was like, who's this character? Because can I not get out of spending 3,000 bells on this motherfucker for insurance I don't need? And it's like turns out like one of the things he does is if you buy a fake painting, he'll buy it back from you for 100 bells. The implication being that he just gives it to Crazy Red to sell again. So I was like, Jesus Christ, and just the fact that because there's been detectives or chapters of like Detective Conan where he like breaks down what's it called like scams like there's one chapter where there's literally a lady who's being scammed by the it's me phone calls as a way so that way the manga as a popular manga can like inform people of these scams that are going on. But now here's a video game that's like teaching children that's like, yeah, watch out for fucking creepy insurance guys who hang around your front door to track you down on your way out or something like that to basically force money out of you. And it's like because mechanically you're supposed to go to the town hall every day and deposit your money in either the bank or the your mortgage payments so that he doesn't steal because you can't get out of it. Like if you have the money you have to pay basically, so it sucks. And I'm like, well, shit. But yeah, I don't know, it just has a bunch of other cute additions and I'm liking it so far. I still there's like one fish that's only in the winter that I haven't caught yet, and then there's not a lot of bugs available anyway. Fossils are easy enough. Yeah, and the move I'm not sure how I feel about the villagers moving, because I kind of liked in Animal Crossing having here's these villagers who are just here forever, even if they're constantly talking about wanting to move and not wanting to live in the village. But then the last two villagers who joined just cycle out constantly because just how the mechanics work with new characters moving in. But then with Wild World, it seems like everyone has a chance to move out. Like I out of my 3 starting villagers, 2 of them are gone, and the last one is only there because I asked him to stay. So it's like it's just by normal gameplay, without going out of your way to talk to any of the village, or without going out of your way to ask a villager to stay. Like eventually everybody will leave, and everyone is constantly cycling in and out basically. So I'm not sure if I like that more or less, because I kind of like the idea of just having oh yeah, you're living in, because it's just more normal to me to be living in a place with one place with just all the people, because people normally just stay in one place for as long as they reasonably can, right? So having villagers come move in to the town for a couple weeks, and I've literally been playing for not even 2 months, and if not for the one village I asked to stay, everyone would be gone. That's quite the
yes,
everyone's moving
drastic.
Constantly, pretty much. Yeah, so it's just creates this depressing picture where, because everyone's like, oh man, it's so tedious and boring here, I want to move, but every city is just the exact same, and it's basically a sort of broad suburbia, where instead of you're driving in a suburban area where it's oh boy, look, identical houses on identical grid roads just forever, and it's no, that's just the whole world of Animal Crossing, just slightly different rivers and borders, and it's nobody wants to live there. They're all just constantly trying to move. So I'm definitely looking forward to the game where they don't do that and they have villagers actually want to stay where they are. Because I know, Vindy, you've told me that by later games, the characters don't move out anymore. I'm sure there's some mechanics for it, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. How much have you missed your GameCube town? Have you wanted to go back, hop in, see the old gang, or?
I cannot say that I've particularly. I kind of. I'm more just I have, because
Bro does
I remember
not give a fuck.
Bro moved out and moved on. I respect it.
Well, because I remember when we talked about it, and you said you went back to your New Horizons town, and you felt like fucking shit because you'd been gone so long, and like weeds everywhere. Everyone's moved. Like it probably wasn't great, right? Um, and so I haven't. I have a fear for that because like I could just pop it up right now and just be like, "Oh my God, you've been gone for a month and a half. Where did you go?" And like 5 people have moved out, and it's full of weeds, and it's like, yeah. I've thought about it, but I haven't done it yet. So, yeah.
Hmm.
I had to step away for a sec, but I'm back.
Yeah, yep, all good.
Luna was asking how to get into wrestling because of the brain rot of wanting to start from the beginning.
Wrestling, I don't think there's really a start from the beginning. I guess if you go like all the way back to like, because there's even different like
crazy.
promotions and stuff. So you like,
I think
I
you would
feel
have to-
like. Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I feel like you'd have to trick your brain. So you'd have to pick something recent that you can use as a start. Thankfully, the beginning of the year is the perfect time because like WrestleMania is coming up in April. So you can either choose, if you don't mind going back a couple months and watching, you can choose like the Royal Rumble because that's the start of like what's considered the road to WrestleMania. So if you start at the Rumble, it's just a pay-per-view. It introduces the main event has 40 male and 40 female wrestlers. So it's honestly great because you get to see a bunch of all the guys that are current stars. It's a main pay-per-view. It's one of the big four, so there will be a title defense for most of the big titles, so you'll see them as well. And then you can just start watching, I guess, the shows or just pay-per-views from there. Alternatively, WrestleMania is in a couple months. And that's like both the end and like the beginning of like the next year of WWE's like booking. So if you start with watching WrestleMania, and then you can, I guess, just watch the weekly shows from after that. The only problem with starting with WrestleMania is you have to watch a bunch of matches with no context, but you can't start just like the Raw after WrestleMania because so much of like the first like 2 weeks after WrestleMania is like fallout from WrestleMania and then the storylines moving forwards. So,
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good way to go about it. I would think like, I guess depending on like the person I'm recommending it to, like you could also look for like like one storyline in particular and kind of like follow that and pick up like other things around it. I don't know. Or because I've talked with Craftsdwarf a little bit about like potentially trying to get him into wrestling, and it's like I don't know. I really feel like you could, if you're just like looking to start out, like just pick up a show and see, or like I think another idea I'd had is like go watch like a cruiserweight classic type thing where it's like a tournament where you get the sort of story in that, and then if like that's cool, then I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you could go about it because but yeah, I mean if you want to keep up with the modern product, I feel like Vindy's suggestion was probably the best way to go about it, because like with the Royal Rumble, you know, you get the surprise entries, you get like a little bit of everything in one show.
yeah, I just don't. I imagine because I assume what he means is just like the brain rot of like having to start from the beginning, like paralyzes him where he doesn't know like a place to just like start. So I feel like in cases like that, like anytime my brain is trying to stop me from doing something, I just have to trick it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know, because I was just thinking like, so how many different shows are there? Because I'm looking at my Western torrent website and I see SmackDown and Raw, of course, but are there like others or those
So
the main
yeah, like
ones?
those are like the weekly TV shows.
Okay.
And then every month typically there's like well, they don't call them pay-per-views anymore, but I'm old brained with wrestling. So then they have like usually like a big event every month that kind of pays
Yeah,
off some storylines or is like leads into the next.
I have no idea what the term for them is. I guess they're on Peacock now because they were
They call them
pay-per-views.
premium live events.
That's horrendous.
Yeah.
Yeah, pay-per-view just has the alliteration.
I think
it's so much
one
better.
Of those terms that, like, you know, language is how it is. You can just rewrite it. You know, pay-per-view doesn't have to mean literally pay-per-view anymore. Okay, it can just still be a pay-per-view without like that is terrible. But yeah, and so those are once a month, and then that's how like WWE works. And then I'm not positive for AEW. If you wanted to watch that, that's just a different company, a little bit different flavor, different vibe.
AEW, I think you kind of just have to watch a Dynamite or
I think AEW because their pay-per-views are once every quarter.
Well, so I think they're trying to do them more often now.
Oh, okay. But even still, yeah, I think you just have to pick like a Dynamite, and then you just start watching Dynamite and Rampage. Like, you just pick a week of TV.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like wrestling is one of those things where, like if you want to watch it actively, as far as like a start point, I think you kind of just have to, like with WWE at least, there's like a back catalog of like, you know, streaming content that like if you wanted to go back and watch like an older era of wrestling, you could do that. Or, like I mentioned, like the Cruiserweight Classic, which is just kind of a separate like tournament that is kind of self-contained. But with AEW, they don't really have something like that yet, as far as I'm aware, at least. And then, you know, there's Joshi wrestling. There's like New Japan. There's like smaller indie promotions that are more like local. I don't know. Like, there's, I don't really know how to turn off the start from the beginning brain rot necessarily, but like you can, you know, for like a first show, you could really like maybe I feel like saying you could jump in anywhere is not a very good like. I don't know where to start. Start anywhere. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. That's because it really doesn't help. Like, because I talked about this a bit yesterday, which is like, because like there is just a general like, because even just like with Shin Megami Tensei is like the beginning is not a good starting point because most people are not going to be into a dungeon crawler, you know, like first person, like, you know, it's just not what, you know. So in that case, like, Shin Megami Tensei 3 or Persona, like, you know, 3, not Persona 1, because apparently, like, I don't know, you know, that's closer to the original game. So it's, again, not going to be the best starting point unless you already like Persona games, right? So yeah, it's just, I mean, if you know, it's because I've seen people and I have seen where it's like, where do I start with Berserk? And it's like, chapter or 1, right? But then it's like, well, the anime, it's kind of a weird case, but you know, you could also just watch the '97 anime. But I don't know, it's just it is different with everything, and I don't want to like look down on someone for asking, you know, because you know.
I remember like when I was making my like my jobber video, like, you know, it's hard to compare anything else to wrestling on the same like scale because there really is not a set like start or end point. It's like even if you followed a particular storyline or like watched up to like the big WrestleMania, it's like the story still goes on beyond that. And I remember even comparing it to like One Piece because like in One Piece there's so many characters that can kind of come and go into the story. But you know, at least One Piece has a chapter 1.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably more comparable to comic books because you have like all these individual storylines that eventually come together in a big event, right? But because that
makes more sense. Don't read comics, so
that's fair.
Or maybe like a soap opera. The other problem with it though is just it's been going for so long and there's so much time, and like genuinely because it is just a, you know, Monday Night Raw has been a television institution for 40 years at this point. you would have to go back 40 years, like genuinely, if you really wanted to ever start at a point where there wasn't some part of Monday Night Raw that didn't expect you to watch the week before, you know?
Yeah,
Like
you'd be
even
going back to like the 80s at least.
yeah, so you just have to deal if you ever want to watch wrestling, I think, that you will be missing knowledge. But thankfully, I'll actually be honest, there are so many wrestling YouTube videos that just give crazy, just like they just drop lore. Like wrestling is one of the easiest things to catch up to lore to because those wrestling YouTubers, man, they just give it to you just straight up.
Of
Yeah, I
course,
haven't
because
been
I
as
imagine,
consistent. Oh no, go ahead,
I
Craftsdwarf.
was just saying, I imagine they want people to be part of the thing they like, right? But
Well, yeah,
yeah,
but
so
I just mean there's like a lot of it and it's good versus like I think there's a lot of other hobbies where it's harder to find like places where there's a lot of like community information like easily compiled, you know.
I made a video about the appeal of pro wrestling one time, and it got blocked for copyright after a bit.
ah. Um, but yeah, to go back to comics for a second, because it's like, yeah, oh man, I'm interested in Batman. Where do I start? Oh, Detective Comics 1. No, like obviously people are like, if you want to get people into comics, like you have to, show them the curated runs, right? Like these are the ones that are like good, and like here's from you just read here to here. Because it's like the idea of starting from the beginning. There's a lot of beginning points. There's a lot of Detective Comics number ones because they numbered them, and it's when it's actually like issue 552 or whatever. So yeah, I don't know, but that's off topic. So I feel like we're winding down to the end of the stream, but because I don't, or at least unless you guys have more to talk about or ask Mathwiz. So
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Trans flag in the thumbnail. Didn't talk
Didn't come
about
up
anything
once.
trans.
I mean, we talk about it enough. Like, I literally made a joke with Trigun because there was there was a trans character, and
Mhm.
then we just like because normally the joke is like, oh, we talk about it for 20 minutes because I just remembered like Yu Yu Hakusho or Gintama or whenever it come up, we talk about it for a long time. And then with Trigun, we just like didn't talk about that character at all. So it's like, oh, okay. So it's just I don't know. We're not talking about it. So sure. I don't know. Ombre's asked, yeah, how do I feel about Fresh Precure? I mentioned last time that it hadn't clicked with me yet, and it has since proceeded to click with me. I didn't care for the All Stars movie at all very much, but like it started be like I don't know. I think around episodes 8 or 9, I was starting to vibe with the humor, and then episode 12. So episode 12 and 22 are directed by the same dude who directed the Gotcha Pokemon AMV, which is like phenomenal. And it's because I was like, wow, this episode's just really like funny and expressive. And like there was a part in episode 12 where a character has a reaction and it does like a triple take of her having the reaction, but for some reason like they had like a recording like a recording symbol like it was from a camera, and then like the third one was like an infrared camera, and it was just like I thought it was really funny that like why are they doing this? And then I was like I gotta look up who's involved in this episode. So it was, and I thought it was really funny. I'm fine with the conflict so far, but the characters are cool. I clicked with me, and I'm enjoying it more. Especially when I realized that it's like because right now what the conflict's kind of doing is the three precures are interested in dancing, but they're having to split their time between like literally like getting good at something that can potentially lead to career stuff down the line, but also precures in the way, and they really want to like put their best into doing both, right? Like they don't want to give up on anything. And then like as one of the episodes was doing that conflict, and I realized like fuck, like I'm constantly like trying to do a lot of different things because I don't want to give up on any of them. And I'm like, oh no, am I connecting personally to this?
Sometimes I forget that Rie Matsumoto worked on Precure, because, like, God, I wish we could get another Rie Matsumoto TV anime. I think, the last one was Kekai Sensen?
Oh yeah, that's the director I mentioned, right? Because yeah, he's just like he directed episode 12, and I'm pretty sure 22 of Fresh Precure, and I was like, holy shit. Like, episode 12 was just so fucking funny. It was so perfect. Like, just the visual gags and just the scenario and the antagonist being a goofball. Like, every minute had something funny, and I was like, this is a fucking phenomenal episode. And it's also doing I'm literally like I was eating lunch to the first half of the episode that introduces the mid-season cure, which I'll say it's kind of funny because I was hoping to like maybe I'll like the character more going forward. Like I'm into it, but I'm definitely like I don't know. Because I'm pretty sure it's a pretty well. It's the first. It's really the not the first mid-season cure. Well, I guess that Fresh Precure in general is the first series that is Precure as we know it, because obviously, yes, Precure 5 still has the like 5 protagonists like a Super Sentai season, but it also has a sequel season where Fresh is like the first one that's from beginning to end going to be 50 episodes. Yeah,
it looks like she also did a little bit of work on Precure 5.
Oh, yeah, I probably gotcha. Yeah. Oh, yeah, but yeah, basically I've been enjoying Fresh more and more, so I'm super into it, and it was more than I expected from the start because like the first 5-6 episodes didn't do much for me, but then I started to enjoy it more and more. So yeah, and then after that, I have 3.5 Precure series left until I'm caught up, and that's also really cool because I'm gonna be caught up to Precure, and what's my life going to be? So
I feel like I'm debating just skipping Max Heart and moving on.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll probably finish it eventually. I just have to like, I've not been watching a lot of anime recently, and I think that's a big part of why I'm not getting anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, because I feel like from what I've heard, most of what you've been watching has been with Bree. Therefore, if Bree is not interested in watching it, then you're not watching it.
Yeah, that's like the Boruto problem.
Not even that, but apparently there was like a bunch of other things that she dropped like in quick succession because she was not feeling like Chihayafuru, or maybe Trigun was one of them. Like I feel like, or maybe she was watching some of them on her own. But
yeah, I think it might have just been she like tried the first episode.
Yeah.
I'm currently trying to get her to continue with Neko Black so we can get to second season. Like she really got burned out on the Araragi stuff in Nisei, and I'm like, no, you got to get to second season. He's not the narrator in some of those arcs. I'm like, you'll like it. I'm not. I don't know. Monogatari has been a really interesting rewatch in general because I feel like having the full context of the series, I just like understand the characters so much better now and like what each individual scene is like doing.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, Ombre he asked earlier, but I forgot to bring it up. But yeah, it's Doremi, which is like, I feel like the world is because like I brought it up. Yeah, no, I told you I brought it up with Shapes, and he was like, well, yeah, why haven't you finished Doremi, Craftsdwarf? And it's like, it's not my fault, but I can't blame you. But it's also like, yeah, but when are you finishing Doremi though?
I just have like it's been a while since I've like had the routine of watching anime by myself, so like I think I just need to try and get that going again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because usually I feel like it's like if I'm doing something on my own, it's like I'm working on a video or doing a live stream or yeah.
Existing.
Or reading for the Nenshow.
Yeah. Have you been doing any of that, by the way? Because I remember it's a longer reading than normal, so...
Yeah, I've finished the Sasuke story and the Minato Rasengan thing.
Yeah. Oh, you read that? Oh, The World Within the Spiral?
Yeah, I didn't know like if there was a particular order I should be reading in this in, so I'm like, I'm gonna read the side content and then I'm gonna get to the manga.
No, I think that's a good way to do it because I feel like when we discuss it, it'll be kind of like when we discussed like Zombie Powder, where we just like generally discuss each of the side contents rather than going like and then we'll talk about Boruto properly. But
It's
the
a little
actual,
different
yeah.
than when we like covered Scarlet Spring, because that's so obviously like read that first. Even if it's like
Yes.
in actually, I think that is the first piece of canon content that the Boruto anime gets to, aside from like the flash forward at the start of episode 1.
Yes, I believe you're correct. Maybe, yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah.
And then the Sasuke story has some cute Sakura and Sasuke content in it.
Mhm.
It's like it's strange for a Naruto story. Like, why are they fighting dragons? Or not dragons, but like
They're
dinosaurs
called
or
dragons, but
whatever.
they're fucking dinosaurs. Yeah, like well, I think I talked about it during One Piece, where the Japanese word for uh dragon contain it, like and dinosaur are similar, if not the same.
Mm.
So which is it's same because it's same with One Piece, where because they're called like the dragon fruits. For the like the ancient zone dragon fruit model, like fucking whatever the fuck Allosaur that Drake
Mhm.
is, or so yeah, but yeah, because they do the same. Yeah, they say call them the same way in Naruto, and Sasuke punches the raptor, and it's great. So um, yeah, that's cool. We'll talk about them for sure. And I was gonna answer Ombre's question. It's like tongue in cheek, I'm sure, but why are you not finishing 35 seasons of Super Sentai so you can watch Gokaiger, Craftsdwarf? I want to, but I was actually thinking about it this year because it's like I want to finish things because I'm envisioning like because I've been trying to write my fanfic more this year, and I have a word count document, so I can tell you that I've written 3,500 words this month so far, which I don't think is a lot, but it's something. Um, uh, but I was thinking it's like, okay, when I finish this, like, what creative project am I going to work on next? Because I have RPG Maker. I literally thought like, oh yeah, there was an old game idea I had that maybe I can make it an RPG Maker. And then I've had that thought of like I have Aegis sub, and it's like don't know Japanese, but like I've been interested in like adding to accessibility by helping to sub an anime somehow. But more for media stuff is like, so I was thinking like finishing the things I started, and it's like, okay. And so I just looked at my list, and I literally like this morning or earlier or yesterday, I literally just like went through, and it's like, okay, it's these game franchises, these manga and anime, and then these other shows or franchises. So it's like the answer is I'd like to. I don't know. I haven't been watching any Toku that wasn't airing lately. I need to fix that, but I also want to watch the stuff that I want to like like my goals for the year, which is right now it's Precure, Ghost of the Shell Standalone Complex 2045, rewatching Space Brothers, finishing Major, not Major second, but just Majors 1 through 6, and then maybe watching One Piece up to Alabasta is my goal for this year, and then everything else after that is extra. So maybe I'll slip a Toku in there, or maybe I'll just do some of the other anime that I haven't finished or want to finish, or TV shows like Defenders. I want to watch that before Daredevil gets another season. So yeah, that's my answer there. Yeah. Anyway, I guess that about covers it for the stream. I'm good to end it at least.
Hello and welcome to the Nenshow podcast.
Not yet, Not this. We got a couple weeks.
That's next week.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. It was really nice to have you. Really appreciated it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry I wasn't more talkative, but
I
this
think
was
you
fun.
did fine. I think you
Yeah,
did fine.
I had a good time. I wouldn't have had any complaints. So
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Catch you next week, everybody. Probably for more Left 4 Dead.
ooh, we will be back on that next week.
Yes. So yeah. Have a good one, everybody.